What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Casual Big Ten podcast. Today is Monday, January 29th, 2024. My name is Kent Peterson. I'm the host of the show, and on today's show, if you're watching on YouTube, if you looked at the title of this episode, you'll notice that there's no rundown on the side. There's no other topics today. There's just one thing, and it is all about Parker Fox. Plays forward for the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Parker was nice enough to join me on his off day. Got to sit down and talk to him about basketball, some other random stuff that is just Minnesota-based because Big Ten tournament's in Minnesota, and I'm going for the first time, and I'm selfish. And I decided to waste his time by asking him questions about Minnesota. But had a blast with Parker. Really appreciate him coming on, and hopefully you guys enjoy this interview as much as I enjoyed interviewing him. All right, joining us now is forward for the Minnesota Golden Gophers, Parker Fox. Parker, thank you so much for coming on the show. How you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing good. Appreciate you having me.
Super excited to talk to you. It's been a really fun time watching you this season, watching you guys grow, and, big difference from last year. I want to get into that in just a minute, but I always like to start when I talk to players about their journey, and you've had quite the journey getting to this season. And I just kind of wanted to hear your side of it. Like, I've read enough about it, but how did you get here and the path that you took to get here?
Yeah. For those that don't know, I grew up in Minnesota. I grew up about 20 minutes east of campus here at University of Minnesota, Dinkytown. It's a place that I called home. I used to come to a lot of games growing up as a kid, and spent a lot of time supporting all the sports. Actually, I think the first sport I was into was Gopher hockey. So I was a big Gopher hockey fan at a young age, and then obviously I decided to play basketball, and basketball was kind of my passion. But I went to Matamidi High School. I graduated Matamidi in 2017. And yes, I'm still in college. I'm a little bit older, that's for sure. I'm in year 7 this year, but I spent my first 4 years at Northern State University, which is a Division II school located in Aberdeen, South Dakota. We had a lot of success there. My freshman year, we played in the Division II national championship game. We won 4 straight conference tournaments and 4 straight conference regular seasons. So I did a lot of winning at my first school. Was able to, have some success individually as well. Became an All-American twice at Northern. And then I decided, my career at Northern, I kind of had accomplished everything at the Division II level that I looked to accomplish. And I was, ready to move on to the Division I level. And, I had a bunch of options, but ultimately I chose Minnesota. And I knew in my heart that Minnesota was where I wanted to go, and chose Minnesota back in this is 2021, and unfortunately, came down with a couple injuries. I actually suffered back-to-back season-ending injuries to both of my knees. First injury was my left ACL, and then my second injury was my right ACL. A couple other little things in that surgery as well, but 2 back-to-back season-ending injuries in the summer that unfortunately barred me from playing the sport I love and playing for the Gophers, but worked my tail off and got healthy, and now I sit here in the year 2024 as a 7th year senior, and healthy and back to playing basketball again.
Yeah, you say 7th year though, but this really isn't your 7th year playing. So like, it's kind of unfair for anyone to say that, you've been playing college basketball for 7 years, because you haven't really. You had to take those years off. I'm more interested about how you went from, you talked about your time at Northern State, and you undersold it a little bit. You were a huge part of that team. Last 2 seasons you were there, 21 points a game. And going from that and then just an abrupt halt with the injuries and having to sit on the sideline, how tough was that for you?
Yeah, I think it was extremely tough. I think anybody that loves the sport and loves competition, it kind of becomes your norm. So you're used to doing it all the time, and it was taken away from me, which was really hard to deal with. But I was just able to find kind of that mental peace through it all, and stay strong and know that my journey wasn't over. I think so many people want things to be linear, and that's just not the case of how life rolls. There's a lot of ups and downs, and different roller coasters that you can go on emotions wise. And I was just able to stay level headed and just trust that my love and my work would eventually show through.
Yeah. So going into this season, this is like the first season that you've been able to play for Minnesota. There's, for me, and I'll just say from my perspective, what I've seen, the big difference between last year's team and this year's team is it looks like you guys are playing a lot looser. You're having more fun, and not to put down last year's team at all, but it did look like there was a lot of pressing going on, like guys trying to force stuff a little bit. And it just seems like a totally different vibe at Minnesota this year. Is there anything to that? Because I look at the record from last year, 9-22. You only got those 2 conference wins, and you guys already doubled that this year, already at 13 wins. I mean, that's a big difference in one season with, adding you, of course, and then a couple other guys. But it's not just the guys, right? Is there more to it than that?
Yeah, I think it's just I think it's just everything that kind of adds up. You talk about you get more depth and in your front court, you get more depth in your back court. You don't have to, like you said, you don't have to force as much. You have more options when it comes to guys that are willing to go out there and play. It's I think so often people don't understand how big of a matchup kind of thing the Big Ten is. There's teams that are really hard to match up against. You talk about a Purdue with Zach Edey. It's hard to match up against 7-4. And then you talk about a team like Penn State, who we just played, and they're pressing and they have really good scoring guards. And so there's just so many different combinations of guys that you can put out on the floor. And this year we're fortunate enough to have guys that are able to do that. So I think just playing more freely and to realize that there's going to be sacrifice when it comes to college basketball, and you're going to have to sacrifice something selfishly if you want to have a good team. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that so far. And obviously, like you said, the wins are starting to stack, and we're not where we want to be yet. We want to continue to win more basketball games, but I think it's been a decent start for sure.
Definitely. You talked about you mentioned that Penn State win that you guys just got, 83-74. Second time this year that you were in double digits. I'm curious though, I don't know if you noticed this or not. You were on not only the Minnesota basketball graphic, but you were on the Big Ten men's basketball graphic too for that announcement. How are you always getting on the graphics, man? What's up with that?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't think it's a photogenic thing, so it must be something else. But no, that's pretty cool. I think I don't know if there's anything to it, but I do know that I think just the way that I kind of approach the game and just playing hard and being able to just be unselfish and give up to others is kind of the way that I've always been. And maybe that has something to do with it, and maybe it's just like they're picking a random guy. Who knows? But cool to have my face up there for sure. It's definitely cool.
Yeah, everybody that I've talked to that not even Minnesota fans, if I just, talk about Minnesota at all, they always mention you because you're definitely standing out, like what you're talking about, hustling, getting your other player, getting your teammates involved. Also, after the game that night, though, I have to ask you about this. There's the Big Warrior belt, I think it's what it's called. How does one acquire the Big Warrior belt?
Yeah, it's kind of like our game ball, right? It's maybe it's not necessarily how many points you scored, or it's not necessarily how many rebounds you had, but I think it's pretty obvious after every game, who earned that belt. And every time we get a win, there's a guy that earns the belt, and they did something to help us win. We always talk about impacting winning in our program, and that's the person that gets that belt is somebody that helps us impact winning. And fortunately, it was able to go my way last game, and I'm fortunate for that. And hopefully, there's more in the future for sure. But that warrior guy is just somebody that helps us win games, and that's ultimately what matters.
How long do you get to keep it for?
I actually don't get to keep it, unfortunately.
Oh, brutal.
Just
you should be able to take
get a little
home.
picture. Get a little, yeah, get a little picture in it. But it's a cool deal, and I think the guys like it, so it's fun.
Yeah. Okay, so looking ahead then, talked about that last game that you guys coming off that win. For me, I feel like 20 wins is realistic. I don't know. I'm really curious in the locker room. Do you guys look that far ahead? Are you already starting to talk about the chance of making the NCAA tournament, or are you just going one game at a time? What's the focus right now?
Yeah, I think the classic media response is, to be like, hey, we're going one game at a time, and we're worried about our next opponent. And that's true. It definitely is true. But I think anybody that plays college sports knows that it's set up. College sports is set up to make a tournament, right? Make a March Madness or make Final Four, all that kind of stuff. Like those are the goals, and I think we all have those goals, right? We all want to be there, and we only have one player on our team that's ever been to March Madness, Division One March Madness. I was played in at the Division 2 level, but our point guard Elijah Hawkins made it with Howard last year, so he's the only one that's been to it, and he tells us how sweet it is, and how much pub and all the stuff you get from it, and just like being able to play more basketball, being able to play into March, and hopefully you get the chance to play into April even. So yeah, it's definitely a focus of ours, but we know that with how grueling and how intense the Big Ten is, you really do have to take it one game at a time. And if you overlook somebody, they can beat you. Anybody can beat you on any given night, and I think that's proven each week in the Big Ten.
Yeah, totally. Before that happens, though, hopefully you guys do make it. I'm cheering for you. I'm pulling for you guys. Right, the week before that, though, it's the Big Ten tournament. You guys just have to go across the river. It's basically going to be home games for you guys. I feel like. Do you think that there's going to be somewhat of a home court advantage for you guys with the fans being right there?
Yeah, I mean, I hope there is, right? You hope that you play yourself in a position where fans want to come and watch. I think if the Big Ten tournament was at the Target Center the last couple of years, you maybe don't pull as great of a crowd because we didn't have as much success. And that's just the way the dice rolls. You win games, people want to come watch you, and I think that's something that we're trying to build up, right? I think when Ben Johnson recruited me, one of his selling points was, imagine the feeling that you had growing up watching, some of these great teams, and imagine being a part of that, and feeling the energy from the crowd. And that's something I love. I think if you watch me play and if you watch me interact, you know that I like to get the crowd involved, and I like to, just thank people for coming to games and be appreciative of the support. And so, yeah, I definitely think that if we play ourselves in a position where we're winning basketball games, and we're getting fans love and support, I think there's no reason we shouldn't be able to pack out the Target Center and get a really good crowd, and that helps us. I think when you look at the Big Ten in general, it's hard to win on the road, man. It's really hard to win on the road, and being able to have that home court advantage would be really special.
Yeah. Well, I'll be there, so I'll help pack it out a little bit. I'm
So,
still working with the I'm trying to. This is my second year. I'm trying to get some media credentials. So if I get them this year, hopefully I'll be able to talk to you after that first night win. Hopefully that'll be a Thursday night win or a Friday night win. Your guys' first game, right? I wanted to know from you though too, because you just said you're from Minnesota. How many tickets do you have to get for that? Have you thought about that yet?
that's a good question, actually. We usually get 4 for home games, so I don't know how the tournament will work, or even if we get any. So, but I'm sure I'll have people hounding me for tickets and trying to get them. I think that's kind of been a consistent, or constant this year, where people have been, asking me for tickets and stuff. And it's hard to get, people tickets. Usually just my family, but it's awesome to have that support. And then,
Yeah.
people coming to games and buying tickets regardless. It's a really cool feeling.
Awesome. All right. So I have one last little segment. This is like a little quick hitter segment, just some quick questions. You don't have to go long on any of these, but we'll do this real quick and then I'll let you go. I appreciate you coming on. Like I said, the first couple relate to Minnesota because like I said, I'll be at the Big Ten tournament and I've never been in Minnesota before. So right off the rip, the two guys I'm coming with, we need to know number one spot to go eat right off the rip.
Ooh, that's such a tough question. I think Minnesota and Minneapolis in general is just such an underrated, place when it comes to food. And I'm a foodie, so I could give you 1,000 places, but I will say that one of my favorite places to go is Black Sheep Pizza.
Okay.
It's a classic pizza place. I think Portnoy rated it pretty high on his pizza scale. So Black Sheep Pizza is a great spot. I'm also a huge sushi fan. And Billy's Sushi is my favorite spot for sushi. But I mean, you can't go wrong. I love Smack Shack when it comes to seafood, and Manny's Steakhouse is a classic for steak. And but you can't go wrong in Minneapolis. You get downtown, there's 1,000 spots, and the food is great. So
Man, I'm even more excited now. You just gave me 4 spots. I'm gonna have to write all those
yeah,
down. I don't know if I'll be able to go to all of them.
If you need more, you just let me know because I can give you a specific spot for whatever you're feeling that night. I got you for sure.
Okay, so what's the best or where else do we have to go while we're down there then? Because like I said, I think it's all three of our first times being there. So what's like the tourist spot that we have to hit?
Yeah, I think obviously like the Mall of America is a big deal, but it's not in Minneapolis. It's in Bloomington, so it's not. Although it's not, it's about 15 minutes away, so it's not super close. But everybody loves the mall. I think when you live here, you kind of think the mall's a little overrated because you go so often, but it is huge, so it's pretty cool. But there's some pretty cool spots downtown. There's a new place that opened up called Puttery. I'm a big golfer, and it's like a mini golf, place to go.
Is it
That's a cool
indoor or
spot.
outdoor?
Indoor. It's an indoor place. Yeah, indoor place. And then they just opened up a new sports bar downtown called Tom's Watch Bar, which is a pretty cool spot. I'm sure a lot of people will be catching the Big Ten games there. But it's just cool having Target Field and Target Center, right there next to each other. And I'm sure the Big Ten will do a great job of putting up branding and all that kind of stuff. So I think if you just get yourself downtown, there's so many fun things to do that
Yeah.
you can just walk around and experience it all. And hopefully the weather's solid too.
Yeah, I'm hoping so too. Last year in Chicago, I feel like I was kind of stuck in the stadium. Like there wasn't a lot of places like walkable around the United Center. Like you couldn't really
Yeah.
go many places.
That's true. The United Center is so far out of the city where, the Target Center is right in the middle of the city. So, you park your car and you can find 100 things to do.
Yeah. All right. Back to basketball. Toughest guy you've guarded in the conference so far?
That's a great question.
Did you have to guard Edie one-on-one? Because you mentioned him earlier.
I haven't gotten to guard Edie yet. We haven't played them this year.
Oh,
But,
yeah. Of course, I should know
I'm
that.
sure I'm sure that'll be a tough one. I'd say so far, I'd say Malik Renew so far, Indiana. I think he's a tough guard. He loves to get to his left hand.
Yeah.
He's strong. He's got good size, and he's having a heck of a year. So I'll give a shout out to Malik.
All right, that's a good one. All right, this is the most important question of the whole night. You grew up in Minnesota, so I think I know the answer. But do you play euchre?
I don't actually.
Whoa.
Don't. I know euchre. I have family that plays euchre. I've definitely probably played it in the past, but it's been years, so I do not. But I definitely know what it is. Some guys on my team probably don't know what it is, but I definitely know. But I don't play it.
I'm surprised, man. Midwest guy. I thought you were for sure on that. All right, if you had to pick, these are all teammate questions now, and then we'll be done. Just got a couple of these. If you had to pick one guy on your team to enter a 2-on-2 tournament with, who would it be?
Ooh, Dawson Garcia.
Okay.
Yeah, one of my good buddies. Yeah, I mean he's just a guy you want to be around. He's a good dude, and I think he's one of the best forwards in the country, in my opinion. So yeah, Dawson Garcia.
All right, who's the most likely to go into to start a podcast or be on TV?
I mean, I'd say myself for that one, but if you put because I do have my own podcast, and I do think
plug it, man, plug it.
Yeah, go follow the Double Down podcast. You can find it on Apple, Spotify, whatever. All the platforms. Double Down podcast. So, but yeah, so I'd say me, and then if you go outside of me, maybe Jack Wilson, Big Jack Wilson. He's got a good brain for his specific thing. He's big into strength and conditioning and that kind of stuff. So he could form a podcast about that for sure.
All right. You got to tweet about your podcast. I had no idea you had one. I would have been listening to it already. You got to send that out.
Yeah. It's been out for a little while now. Since the season started, I've haven't been able to upload as many episodes.
Right.
I've taken a little break just because just being so busy. But I do have 20 plus episodes on there, all with athletes, including Robbie Hummel, Jordan Taylor, Jared Bergeron, all former Big Ten basketball players. So yeah,
Nice.
definitely a good listen for sure.
I'm gonna go check that out. All right, last question. Who's most likely to become a basketball coach from the team?
We have a lot of really good basketball minds on our team, but I don't know if he would do this, but I think Braden Carrington has a pretty good basketball mind.
Yeah.
So I'll give Braden a shout out for the coach. I don't know if he'd be a coach. I don't know if that would be his swag, but I think he could do it if he wanted to.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, next game up against Northwestern coming up just in a couple days, right? This is on Saturday, or it's on Saturday, right?
Yep, coming up here Saturday.
Northwestern playing tough right now. This is a chance to get a big win. Any scouting report on them that you don't want to give away to them, but anything big that you're looking at for them?
honestly, we haven't even dove into it yet. But playing them in the past, Boo Boo is a big threat.
Yeah.
Point guard. They can space it with guys like Ty Berry and you know Braunheiser. And then they got some good guys inside. So they're a good team, and they've won some big games this year. I'm obviously a big basketball guy, and I'm watching all the games. They got a good win against Purdue. They just got a good win against Ohio State. I think they got Illinois as well at home. So they got some good wins, so they're going to come in here and play tough, and we're just going to do what we do. So hopefully we can get them.
Awesome, man. I'm looking forward to it. His name is Parker Fox. Go follow him on Twitter. If you're watching on YouTube, his Twitter handle is on the screen. Parker, thank you so much for coming on, man. This was fun. Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you having me. You have a good one.
All right, you too. All right, once again, that was Parker Fox from Minnesota. Thank you so much to Parker for coming on the show. Go follow him on Twitter. I'm looking up his podcast right after I'm done recording this. I'm going to go listen to all those episodes. Had no idea he was doing one. Had no idea. So shout out to him for letting me know about that. I got something to listen to next couple of days here. Big game against Northwestern coming up on Saturday. Parker's part of the family now. We got a couple guys. The family is growing. The family is growing. The casual Big Ten family has grown by one today, and that's a good thing. Thanks again to Parker. We'll be back on Thursday. We'll actually talk about all the teams once again, unless, someone else wants to come on. Then I'll just stop talking about all the teams, and we'll just interview people. That'll be fine, too. Be back on Thursday. Some big games coming up. Looking forward to, we got Wisconsin and Purdue coming up this weekend. You got Michigan State. You got all sorts. There's a bunch of games on this week. Who could name them all? It would be impossible, right? I'd have to pull up the website that has all the games, and I'd have to sit here and list them all, and I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just not. But there's some really big games coming up this week, and hopefully your team wins. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that interview with Parker Fox, and we will see you again on Thursday. We will see you in the future.